Hi everyone, welcome back to Sally's Take. For this video, I'm trying something a little different by comparing Little Women and Charlie's Angels 2019 version to each other to point out the ingredients of making a good feminist remake film. Now, if you have any clue of what these two films are, you would know that they are extremely different, whether it being the genre, the time period, the characters. So you might wonder, why am I comparing it? Well, the common ground these two films seems to have is that it is seen as a feminist film, and they are both remakes of 90s to 2000s beloved films directed by a female directors. So I find it interesting to kind of analyze why people praise Little Women while hating on Charlie's Angels. Little Women is set during the American Civil War. It centers around a family of four sisters, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy. Their personalities are really different and often clash with each other, which causes sister fights, and it's a story about family, kindness, childhood, and being a woman. Charlie's Angels is set in our present day. It centers around these three spies, Sabina, Elena, and Jane, who works for the Townsend agency to stop. Well, honestly, I don't even know what that is. The film made a bad job describing the power of this cube thingy, but basically the bad guys want this new technology so they can dominate Earth, and these girls are on a mission to stop them.
Groundbreaking.
The problem with remaking beloved films is that it can't live up to the old version's standards, especially if it were a big hit. But Little Women seemed to get things right, so I dug up 4 factors that explain what makes a successful feminist remake film. Number 1 is maintaining the film's main essence. The foundation of a decent remake just has to follow the main essence of the original version, so you need to include what makes those movies lovable and iconic in the first place, like the quotes, the costumes, the characters, the villains, the storyline. All those things are already provided, and all you gotta do is put it in the goddamn remake to make the OG's fans happy. Think of it as a Halloween costume. You can't dress up as Harry Potter without drawing a thunderbolt on their forehead with a Sharpie, and you can't be Regina George if you wear black. So if you want to do something inspired by the original, then you have to keep the most recognizable essence of it alive. Now, what stands out for Little Women is the warmth of the family, the sibling bonds, and this is personal, but Jo's aspiration to become a writer. I was amazed at how relatable they make the characters given the time the story was set, and it's the kind of movie you watch during Christmas with your family. And I think the 2019 version did a great job maintaining all those essence that made the 90s version what it is. They reintroduced iconic lines and familiar character traits. Therefore, you still get the same warm feeling in the current version as much as the 90s version. What stands out for Charlie's Angels is the angels' personality and dynamic between each other, the fight scenes, the villains, and how it manages to objectify women in a very over-the-top and unrealistic, campy manner while also seeming to empower female sexuality at the same time. I don't know how it does it, but it's truly iconic. The least they could do in the 2019 version is drop a few iconic moments here and there and have interesting angels, but all it does is mimic things that seemed Charlie's Angels, like the explosive scenes, which weren't nearly as over the top as the 90s version, which is super disappointing given how much better the editing could be now. And they can't show female sexuality without giving the audience a lecture on patriarchy.
Did you know?
What?
It takes men an additional 7 seconds to perceive a woman as a threat compared to a man.
Coming in at number 2 is the characterization. I feel like both Little Women and Charlie's Angels are very character-driven stories, so if they don't do the characters right, they are essentially fucked. So let's talk about characters a little bit. Stereotyping is to oversimplify or generalize a fixed idea on a person or thing. I always thought stereotyping a character is lazy and bad writing, but it could actually be very useful in films like Little Women and Charlie's Angels, where there are several main characters telling a feminist story. For example, in Charlie's Angels 2000s version, there were 3 clearly established different personalities of the main characters. Alex was stern, preppy, and serious. Natalie was the bubbly, friendly, quirky, quote-unquote dumb blonde. Dylan was the edgy rebel with a soft side. This trio formula is seen repetitively in other friend groups in other form of media as well, like Powerpuff Girls. In Little Women, it was also clearly established that the March sisters are very different from each other and could still fall into the similar stereotype, as well as the Charlie's Angels characters. Even though the characters in Charlie's Angels 2000s version and Little Women are stereotypes, they are evidently seen as individuals and are distinguishable from the group. They were able to make these characters even more interesting and different from other characters in the same stereotype by customizing their backgrounds, love lives, talents, and goals in life. Like how Dylan from the 2000s version of Charlie's Angels and Joe from Little Women are kind of stereotyped into being the edgy, I don't give a damn what society wants type. And in the end, they both chose to be single. But they both show vulnerability with being alone and fear that their friends or sisters will drift apart after they got married. However, they aren't the same people because they have their own aspirations and background stories. In the 2019 version of Charlie's Angels, it kind of failed to create enough background and flaws for these women because they are too focused on making them perfect. It seemed to me, at least, that they are scared that if they write a physically weaker or more vulnerable female, then it would seem sexist, which is not the case at all. I understand that a spy should have multiple skills, but they were good at everything despite not being trained together, and suddenly they have almost the same physical and mental capability. Writing a woman who is good at everything isn't entirely unrealistic. I mean, we all know that one person who wins at everything in life, but making 3 of the characters almost invincible makes them really unrelatable. Number 3, we have cast and actors turned directors. Casting is especially important for a remake. Both Charlie's Angels and Little Women have a fan base that dates back from multiple reboots, especially the 90s and 2000s version of the cast, which are still very fresh in people's minds and don't want to be tampered, so they have really big shoes to fill. With a project like Little Women, the previous cast were full of 90s it girl, like Winona Ryder as Jo and Kirsten Dunst as Amy. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her name. And the current version of the cast has to be on par with that, whether it be the clout the cast has or the talent. And I think Little Women did a fantastic job at casting the 2019 version, because I do think that Saoirse Ronan is on the same level as Winona Ryder at the time. Saoirse was also in a popular coming-of-age film a few years ago called Lady Bird, which was also the debut for the actress turned director Greta Gerwig, who directed the 2019 version of Little Women as well. And from their past work, you can already draw a connection that Greta is good at crafting a story about family and the coming of age of a woman. Not to mention they got Emma Watson, who is also very involved in feminist works and films, and the gorgeous Timothée Chalamet, the soft white boy of this decade. Charlie's Angels 2000s version was also blessed with iconic cast like Drew Barrymore, Cameron Diaz, and Lucy Liu. In the 2019 version, however, we have a more diverse cast of angels: Kristen Stewart, Naomi Scott, and Ella Balinski. Now, Kristen is already quite famous, Naomi as well, but I still unfortunately see her as Princess Jasmine from Aladdin, so it's kind of difficult to shake the Disney image from her, and it doesn't really help that this version of Charlie's Angels is very PG-13. As for Ella, I think she's a decent actress, but her character was kind of bland and lacked any substance, so I don't really have much to say about her. This film is directed by Elizabeth Banks, who is also an actress turned director. She has previously been a producer of Pitch Perfect 1 and directed the sequel, both of which are extremely successful musical films about female friendship in an a cappella group. Which I love, by the way. I love Pitch Perfect. So I think she is as passionate with what she does as Greta Gerwig. But Elizabeth just can't stop writing and commenting about patriarchy every chance a male shows up on screen. It not only puts female on a pedestal, but goes the extra mile to degrade and humiliate men, just like how men have been writing women in films all these years. So that's progressive. Number 4 is adding a new flair. I personally don't think Hollywood should remake movies at all if they don't have any fresh takes on it, whether it being the cinematography or the ideas. It's just setting it up for failure. But Little Women succeeded in a retelling of an old simple story because Greta Gerwig actually had something new to bring to the table. Most noticeably is the unchronological way she tells the story, jumping from past to present almost seamlessly, with only the tone of color indicating the time. The beginning of the film sets up what the story is about. So when it opens with Jo in the future telling her story, it actually pegs the importance of her career. Moreover, I think the reoccurring feminist theme in this film is marriage for women is economical. So if you're lucky, it's tied to love, but most importantly, it's about survival. Little Women explores how the decisions and views on marriage the March sisters make in life affects them, and how different choices doesn't mean it's less valuable. I really like that they bring this up because it's still an interesting discussion that's going on today. Women these days might be more financially independent, but there are still pressures of getting married and pumping out babies. And women who choose to be housewives aren't as respected as working women. Charlie's Angels reboot has a whole new set of characters, a whole new plot, and a whole new world. Yep, I had to add it in there because it's right there. The film barely took anything good from the 2000s version, and they proceeded to destroy it by giving the film the most basic, unoriginal plot and characters. The recurring feminist theme for this film isn't as specific as Little Women. It's kind of an overall all men are bad, all women are amazing thing, which sums up most girl power films in Hollywood. I think they also tried to prove a point that a film about women can be good without sex and romance, and if Charlie's Angels doesn't succeed, that's because the audience is sexist, not because the movie's bad though. And although I do have to agree that a lot of Charlie's Angels' success comes from the angels using their sexuality, I don't think it's the only thing that made it successful. They used the character's sexiness and love life to build character. Female sexuality is also kind of a topic of debate. Covering or showing female body could be viewed as both empowering or conforming to the patriarchy, and it could be an interesting point of discussion for the story, but Charlie's Angels 2019 version completely ignored it. Bottom line, what makes a good feminist remake film is sticking to what makes the original a success, pay attention to the characters and cast and crews, and add your own twist. With that, I hope Hollywood will stop pumping out terrible remakes and stop trying to send this girl power message if they don't know how to respect men at the same time. So that is it for this video. I'm kind of experimenting with this new format and I don't know if my points are too obvious or repetitive or not, but if you're interested in this film versus film format and enjoy this video, then please let me know. And thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon.